Oh look, it's Crash Bandicoot. That was alright, wasn't it? Oh look, it's Crash Bandicoot 2. That was great, wasn't it? Oh look, it's Crash Bandicoot Wrapped. Oh look, it's Crash Teat Rabies. But no matter how much people loved Crash 1, when Crash 2 came out and refined and improved basically everything, it was clear where the original should have been from the very beginning, and it looks kind of bad now. Because at the time, nobody knew any better. This type of game was a new thing in 1996, so people didn't 100% know how good this new gaming formula could possibly get until they experienced it for themselves. I mean, Jesus, people played Pong in 1972 and they thought that video games had peaked. That's it, guys, we're not getting any better than this. Pack up and go home. Wait, it's in colour now! And nowadays, we all know the original Crash trilogy is classic because they remade them and they still hold up brilliantly today. The same can even be said about Crash's first attempt of a kart racer. Fantastic then, and fantastic as a remake even now. We also know these games are classics because its own series they came from really started pushing their luck when everyone started bitching about it. Now, where have I heard that before? Every franchise, whether it's about a purple dragon or a blue guinea pig, suffers from this problem of sinking really damn low when trying desperately to spice up what made their own games terrific in the first place. Even the portly Italian Pillsbury Doughboy wasn't safe from this trend. And even though it makes us respect and appreciate their good games even more, they still exist. And when it comes to Crash, bless his little belly baton. Once Naughty Dog had nothing to do with him after 4 games in, nobody had a clue how to use him. Party games, open world games, more racing games, portable side-scrollers, all in a desperate attempt to keep Crash relevant while completely ignoring what made him so popular and gave him a fan base to begin with. Now, I have indeed taken a look at a few questionable games from Crash many years ago on this channel. Wrath of Cortex was one of them, and I'm not going to bother looking at it in this video because I already went through it top to bottom in depth not that long ago. But suffice it to say, aside from the great controls, the enemies are pathetic and can barely touch you, the bosses from Crash 3 do nothing but poke you, Cortex's eyebrows have a mind of their own, the levels are way too big, Coco gets stuck floating in boxes, Monkey Bar swinging is slower than corpse decomposition, your eyes escape your head and float in mid-air, and Crash looks like an inflatable sex doll, which makes me want to be sick in my mouth. There's also this one level here where you can beat it to get the crystal by just letting go of the controller. Yes, I'm not joking about that. This is supposed to be a minecart race where you pick different routes to take to try and get in front of Crunch, and you don't need to press a single button and you will win. This game is a masterpiece. I also did do a video on Crash Bash, but that was back in 2012. That was even before YouTube was taken over by Susan Wetwinky. I figured I'd drop myself into this video nice and gently and revisit Crash Bash to see if it really was the beginning of Crash's downfall after Naughty Dog dropped in to start making games about angry, hairy men. So I guess it's time to conclude this year's Bandicoot month by acknowledging all of Crash's failures and getting them out of the way forever so that I never have to mention them again. These games I'll be talking about today have been heavily requested on my channel for years now, so sorry for the wait. I hope this is what you wanted. Oh wow, check it out. It's Crash Basham. I reviewed this game when I was a clean-shaven child.
The graphics as well are actually quite pleasant. The characters look good.
And I don't know what I was talking about. This was the first Crash game to be picked up by another random developer after Naughty Dog lost the rights of the character to Universal. And that does spell bad news at the offset, but at least the new devs, Eurocom, didn't try to poorly replicate the original formula. They instead tried to do a Mario Party, but with a gorilla with an anus for a face. Doesn't mean the game is great though, despite it doing its own thing, because, spoiler warning, I don't think it's that great.
Can we judge the game by the first world of adventure? No, we can't.
Ignore him. Now, even though Crashly Bashly is a party game, if you're all by yourself, you can indeed play a single-player adventure mode. Ooh, get you. And in adventure mode, I decided to pick Cortex because when he's running, his hands turn into a canary. But you can't call this an adventure without a story. I mean, what do you think this game is? Hiking? So the intro cutscene clues us in on what's going on. In the most basic of terms, Aku Aku and Uka Uka are having an argument, which almost leads to the worst boxing match of all time because none of them have any arms.
Prepare to fight. No, Uka Uka. The ancients would not allow it.
Do you know what? Aku Aku is right. Yeah, we've never done that before at all. No, we don't fight because the ancients won't let them do it. No, not even once. Don't want to piss off those ancients. You know what's even weirder about this though? The first line spoken in this cutscene is,
"How many times must you be told? You cannot defeat me."
So why does Uka Uka even try to fight Aku Aku after all of that? Why give him the ancient's excuse? You both can't hurt each other. Aku Aku said so. Do you have memory loss, Uka Uka? Can Wood get Alzheimer's? And logically, just like when you catch your own kids bickering, there's only one way to settle it.
illegal cage fighting.
Yes, instead of settling this tiny squabble between themselves, these omnipotent and all-powerful masks decide to steal their supposed friends and pit them against each other until only one is left alive. And Crash is A-okay with it. What is he doing? And so, by winning a random set of battle party games and fighting boss levels at the end of each warp room, your chosen character must beat out the competition for the glory of their own mask that forced them into this horror, and this somehow proves how great they are and who wins this pissy little argument. Even stranger though is that since I picked Cortex, I'm fighting for the evil side, and yet the boss levels are all the same if you picked the hero side. Even Uka Uka says in the boss cutscenes,
You must first meet an old friend.
so if they're old friends, why are we fighting the bosses? If the bosses are evil and friends with Uka Uka, including the final boss, doesn't that mean that the evil side already wins this argument by default? What's going on? Why are we fighting them? This story is a total disaster, no other words. It's as much of a mess as Tiny Tiger's character model. Cortex's hair though is on point. Look at it. It's so on point that it is a point. His hair is so sharp he could open an envelope with it. So Crash Bandicoot, like I mentioned earlier, is Mario Party for the entirety of the gameplay, but without the game board or dice to roll, and it's worse. You just win mini-games over and over again to progress, and where some of these games on their own are totally passable and fun in their own right, where Crash Bash fails is with the tedium of it all. This is one of the most repetitive games I've ever played. In fact, it's so repetitive that in the first warp room, you get 4-way Pong, polar bear fighting, pogo stick bouncing, and 3D brawling. And then in the second warp room, you get 4-way Pong, polar bear fighting, pogo stick bouncing, and 3D brawling. Foon! Sure, there's an additional game mechanic added in for the copies, but they're still copies. They feel exactly the same to play, and many of these minigames are copied up to 3 times throughout the adventure mode in different warp rooms, with nothing but a different coat of paint. And that's not all. Get this, in order to unlock the boss battles from each warp room, you need a certain amount of trophies. And no, your wife doesn't count. To get the trophy on one of these levels, you need to win the minigame in question not once, not twice, but 3 times. And this isn't a best out of 3 system or anything like that. The game keeps on going until anybody in the match wins 3 times, meaning that you could potentially replay the level 9 times in a row in order to win just 1 trophy. And that's assuming you even win on the 9th attempt. So you get the 4 trophies from Warp Room 1, unlock Boss 1, and then think to yourself, God damn, I can't wait to see something new. Warp Room 2 has exactly the same minigame styles you just did, aside from 1 extra level you haven't seen before, and you still need to win them all 3 times each. And then all of a sudden, Boss 2 won't let you in, because you need trophies, gems, and crystals to get inside. But where do you get the gems and crystals from, you bitch? Why? By going back through all the levels you've already replayed a million times over and replaying them again. But this time with an overly frustrating crutch, like randomly growing insta-kill mushrooms taking over the stage, or you beginning the stage with less health than everybody else. So yeah, the single-player adventure mode, aside from the decent bosses, it's pretty horrendous. And unfortunately, unless you own a first edition black labeled European version of Crash Bash, like I do, there's no code you can put in anywhere to unlock all of the multiplayer games straight away if you want to just jump into a match with a few friends. You have to go through the adventure mode and unlock everything in that tedious goddamn way. Otherwise, you're stuck with 4 minigames total with 4 different skins, and that is it. Unless you have a copy of Spyro 3. Yes, stay with me. By holding L1 and R2 on the title screen for Spyro 3 and pressing square, you get access to a hidden Crash Bash demo. And then, if you type in a specific code on the title screen of the demo, you are then granted access to a cheat menu, where you can not only manipulate and change basically everything on the screen, but also have access to nearly every single level, fully multiplayer compatible and all. You are missing a few of the final minigames, and you only have 3 bosses to pick from, boss 3 of which apparently being Homer Simpson. But yes, essentially, nearly the entire Crash Bash game is hidden on a Spyro 3 disc, which I guess just goes to show you how little space Crash Bash's full disc was using in the first place. I can't believe they left this here accidentally. It's so damn cool. Look, you can even see the exact date and time that this beta build of the game was placed onto the Spyro 3 disc. How adorable. Okay, what I just said about the no effort thing, that was harsh. There is quite a bit of effort put into some of Crash Bash. The soundtrack, for instance, is one of Crash's best on the PS1. In fact, below Crash 2, I'd say it was the second best, so go and check it out. And when you do have all the mini-games unlocked, it is a decent distraction with friends, but getting to that point legitimately, which the majority of players of this game had to do, is hellish. Too many freeze frames I was able to grab from this game were absolutely horrifying, and a far cry from the detail you'd expect from the Crash universe, even on the PS1. And come on, man, Cortex's head here looks like a boiled egg on top of a frisbee. I can see a good game here. It's not in there. And my personal favorite, these backpack straps. Check it out. It's a baby T figure. That's adorable. Actually, wait a second. I was wrong. These aren't backpack straps. They're mobile phone charms. Oh boy, who remembers that era of tech? You'd have this tiny flat little phone the size of a debit card with a giant plaited sausage hanging off of it. Another Japanese thing I got my hands on were these pretty rare keyring figures from 1998. Surprisingly high detailed, and even better, they even move. Not very much, but they still move. Look, he's nearly 30 years old, he has arthritis, he's practically dead. Not to mention, I don't think I've ever seen merchandise related to one of Crash's death animations before. This slightly translucent ghost Crash is terrific. I kinda wanna use him, but I don't wanna ruin him either. You know, any more ruined than he already is, because he's dead. Blizzard Bluff is only hard to platinum for one reason, and anybody who's played this stage knows what I'm about to say. 2 words. This jump. This is it. This is the only reason this stage is such a chore to get the platinum relic on. I mean, I suppose the ice physics can be kind of annoying, but those issues pale. They squeal in comparison to this bumbling piss stick of a jump right here. You not only have to be going as fast as humanly possible beforehand, but you also have to be boosting while controlling yourself on ice physics so that you don't crash, while hitting all of the time crates placed in such a way that I swear it was designed to point and laugh at me even when I got the jump correct. I'm playing as Gorilla Monkey Anus Face for this one. And the first one is known as 2003 Crash 2 Advance for the Game Boy Color. And when you look at this confounded thing was made by the company Syntax, which sounds like a groin cream. And looking at this cartridge, I think I'm gonna need some of it because oh me, oh my, is this cover giving me the chafes. We appear to be in a European skiing resort while a bit of Crash Bash hangs out in the background there, and Crash with green warts over there, and an angry shoe, and Humpty Dumpty with a shotgun. English treasures, oh boy. Product is fit for Game Boy Color or a machine. The product is fit for a machine. What kind of machine? Serene life of people is in this fine cosmos. There is an unknown object in the mysterious space to surround the Earth high speed to exercise to come over. Then we cut to Uka Uka. Where is he? I do not Ow, to how I still take you nearby. You disappointed me too many times. And then all of a sudden, Cortex steps in. Forgives me, I wasted so many years to try to conquer those stupid people. Trust me, I have a plan for resident of the weak and small people on Earth. And then we cut to Cortex enacting his evil plan and his final declaration to the planet. I'm coming. And apparently he did too much because now the planet is covered in blood. Finally, mankind of my planet have already completed. The Earth mankind will admit for my super intelligence. Your god I am. I am your ruler. Ha! Finally I woned, and now no one can obstructed me. Oh dear, what a dire situation. Who can possibly fix it? Oh, I know. Crash Bandicoot and King Chicken. Crash, alter evil to be straight. Go to rescue will sort on a cosmos that super hardship in of living to work properly. Okay. Then we see some flapping paper, then we see a dead whale fly across the screen, and then whoa! There's the title screen. 2003 Crash 2 The Huge Adventure on the Game Boy Colon. Off to stage 1 we go then. This isn't Crash Bandicoot. It's my granddad in his sweatpants on his way to the tool shed. You can do everything Crash can do in this game. You can jump, and you can spin. You can't spin. And your mission is to travel through the jungle, kill all of the My Little Pony puppies, and collect Wumpa Fruit by breaking boxes. Or by breaking the same invisible box forever until you die. Check it out, you can even crouch in this game. This is great. Who needs a bucket and mop when you've got Crash's mouth? Oh wait, oh god, I can't stand up. Why can't I stand up? Why am I still crouching? There's an enemy coming for me. What am I supposed to do? Get out of the way, get out of the way! Is that a dead beaver? What is that? Tell me, Gammy Dewar. Okay, let's try this again. See, I'm doing much better this time. I even got a crystal. Look at that. Let's pick it up. This is fine. No, this is fine. I'm okay. It's only Crash Bandicoot with a sawn-off shotgun. Nothing to see. This is good, actually. He went from looking like my granddad running for the garage to my granddad going duck hunting with his shirt off. I mean, the gun itself is totally worthless since you can't shoot downwards and every enemy is too small to hit, like the
Dreaded fiendish rabbit.
But this image alone makes it all worth it. Oh, cool, a platform. Is this the end of the level? No? Why aren't you moving? What do I do? Can I go back? No. Well, I can get behind the waterfall and go... But I can't jump back up to the start of the level and I can't reset the level. I'm completely stuck. Is this the end of the game? Did I win? Did it break? Crash 3 released 22 years ago, and since then we haven't had any of the Crash games at all. He's been dormant for 2 decades. And now here we are, the true sequel to one of my most favoritist games of all time, Crash Bandicoot 4. In a big tent. I have stopped making videos about individual games, but I think I can make an exception this one time. Yes, my lumpies and germs, your eyes don't deceive you. This is a brand new Crash game, and it's called Crash Bandicoot 4. Ever wondered what really happened to Entropy, Cortex, and Uka Uka after the end of Crash 3, when they were sent back in time to an alternate dimension and turned into babies that brown themselves? Well, Crash 4 sets out to answer that question and give you a damn entertaining game while it's at it, which I think it manages to do amazingly. So Uka Uka used all of his power to open a dimensional rift to get back to Insanity Island so that the baddies could get their revenge on our favourite orange rat. And when I say everyone's favourite, I really mean everyone, because even Crash himself is watching TV shows all about his own games like the narcissist he truly is. After Aku Aku senses there's something afoot, Crash and Coco are instructed to find and collect a new group of masks with reality-bending properties in order to use their powers to close the rifts and stop Cortex, Embryo, Engine, and Entropy from taking over the multiverse. And then later on, it turns out that Entropy was planning on double-crossing Cortex from the very start due to his incompetence and his incontinence. So after Boss 3, Entropy actually enlists the help of his alternate dimension counterpart to take down Cortex and everybody else, which not only means Cortex and Crash team up to fight a common enemy just like in Twinsanity all over again, but also means that Entropy has a female version of him from another dimension, and I have never seen anyone so thirsty for someone else in my life. Crash Bandicoot 4. Entropy does himself. The bit of the plot I really enjoyed though was after Entropy and his wife are taken down, because Cortex then has a realization that nothing is stopping him from going back to 1996 before Crash 1 happened, and then convincing his younger self to stop creating Crash and therefore never get defeated in the future. This story is a good time, and it can be pretty damn funny on occasion as well. I don't think it's as funny as Twinsanity or anything like that, but it gives you a lot more interaction between classic characters that aren't from these things, and there are a lot of cutscenes in the game, so I really do think it hit the mark with entertainment value. And once again, the highlight is obviously Cortex, who may not have as many memorable moments as he does in Twinsanity, but is performed brilliantly by Lex Lang and animated absolutely wonderfully. I cannot for the life of me get over this face right here. How much more cartoonishly evil could you possibly be? The game was Geppetto and I was the son he made who couldn't tell him no, please stop. Some of the crystal rules are completely logical, like win without the ability to pick up the crates, or score the most points in one go to win. And then some of them are just nebulous guesswork, like defeat your opponents while avoiding the water perils, or are downright biblical, like beware the idol's wrath. What the hell does that mean? Is this a threat? Win with the handicap of slippy shoes? Crystal on Melt Panic took me 22 attempts. I failed this 21 times. You have to play the game without the ability to save yourself from falling off the edge, which is not only an essential mechanic in the polar bear stages, but the AI also charge into you harder, on top of ganging up on you like it's a school playground and you're a ginger kid. And as for the gems, most if not all of them are identical to the trophy challenges that are already close to identical to many other mini-games in the adventure already, so you're essentially playing a copy of a copy, but also much harder. The gems are basically the reduced time limit challenges or the less health challenges, and in general are not as hard as the crystal challenges because they're the next difficulty up from the trophies, and there's minimal added dump on top of that. But with some of the mini games, the strict time limits and less health can actually be more of a detriment to you because of how those games are designed in the first place, and makes those gems sometimes harder to get than the supposedly extra hard crystals. Take Drain Bash. The gem for that took me 14 minutes and 20 attempts to get it right because of just how difficult it is to knock everybody else out in less than a minute. However, comparing that to the apparently harder crystal challenge, that only took me just over 4 minutes and only 3 attempts because you have way more time to make mistakes and also only have to worry about being careful how you open the crate. Crystal for Swamp Fox, 4 attempts, 3 minutes, because it's the exact same thing as the trophy, but with harder AI, and you're also being followed around by a pissy little torpedo. But the gem that only changes the time limit from 90 seconds to 40, 11 minutes. Jungle Fox Crystal, win the match, harder AI, but now the totem pole in the middle spits projectiles at you. First attempt, 1 minute. Jungle Fox Gem, cutting the time limit to win in half, 8 attempts and 6 minutes. And this isn't including the gem challenges that omit vital information or outright lie to you. For the Ring Ding Gem Deng, the gem forces you to decrease your score to 0 before everybody else, but also starts you off with more points than everybody else, which isn't mentioned in the rules. For the Dot Dash Gem, how do you like the sound of winning it with 30 seconds less time than usual, but also you have to clear 2 more laps than everybody else because we just forgot to mention that part. Sorry. Make sure you don't get hit by the missiles that you can't control and get juggled off multiple times in a row by everyone else that you can't control, and if you fall off more than twice, you don't have enough time to win anyway. Bye. Because of this wildly varying, inconsistent difficulty, it took me 2 hours and 8 minutes to get all the gems and 1 hour, 49 minutes to get all the crystals. When going for all 28 gems, that was a total of about 120 attempts, including the ones I did win, averaging at about 4 retries per gem on average, or 4 minutes and 30 seconds per gem average. On the crystal end, it was about 96 attempts in total, including the ones I did win, averaging at about 3 retries per average, or 3 minutes and 53 seconds per crystal on average. When it comes to the near impossible gold relics, that took me a total of 3 hours, 51 minutes and 28 seconds to get all of them. Nearly 4 hours of replaying the same 28 minigames, but winning them twice in a row against deliberately cheating near impossible AI. So, in total, that was 206 attempts to get all of those relics, including the ones I did win, averaging out at about 7 retries per stage on average, or an average of 8 minutes and 16 seconds per gold relic. Yes, again, I know. I didn't need to get all 28 gems, crystals, and relics to unlock every game for multiplayer, but as I already explained, you'll never know which are worth attempting or going for in comparison to the others until you've already spent so much time attempting each of them to begin with. So it doesn't save any time to assume that you just need all of them and go for all of them as soon as you can. Did you like Crash Team Racing? Yeah? Good. Well, have I got the steal for you? Because for the low price of 3, you can get Crash Team Racing, but on the PS2 with better graphics, and you fall through the floor all the time! So Crash Nitro Kart was sort of a sequel/spiritual successor to Crash Team Racing for the PS2 era, and oh boy does it feel like a game stuck in the shadow of its better big brother that the parents love more. In many ways, this is just a carbon copy of Crash Team Racing, but just not as good. It's even apparent in the adventure mode. The plot of CTR is aliens, and the plot of Nitro Kart is aliens. But instead of Oxide threatening to turn Earth into a giant concrete parking lot, you have this guy called Velo who just steals you to race a bunch of times to entertain other aliens on another planet. That's basically it. And his beard is the shape of the first letter of his name. Nitro Kart does actually give you a good first impression. Instead of making you pick one character only for the entire adventure like in CTR, you get to pick from either Team Bandicoot or Team Cortex, allowing you to swap between 3 different characters with their own unique driving styles and kart stats whenever you want to in between all of the races. And that's not all. You even get unique cutscenes for each team throughout the story mode based on who you pick. But then you realize that they didn't bother to fix the facial animations for the mask. What's my name? Easy. Sloppy. Nitro Kart gave us a fair amount new and good. This was the game that introduced a new boost formula where the closer you leave the drift meter to the burnout, the faster boost you're rewarded with. A brilliant risk and reward system that they later brought back for Nitro Fuel. They gave us unique track designs with trap crates to break that activate different obstacles on the track to sabotage other players. There are some great new items like the tornado that picks up anybody it touches and goes around half the track. There's anti-gravity gimmicks in the levels that Mario would later copy in Mario Kart 8 11 years later. The adventure mode has this frenzy system where a meter slowly charges with your teammates throughout the race, after which you're able to use as many random items as you can before the timer runs out. The visuals can be absolutely breathtaking for a PS2 game, and hell, they even brought back the staples from CTR that made the adventure mode stand out in the first place, like the 3 token collection races, crystal grabbing arenas, and the time trial relic races. And since they already copied so much that worked from CTR, it would only make sense for them to copy the addictive, maniacal, and bouncy control style. But they don't. Even though you're not playing the game right now, you can probably see the downgrade just from the footage. Nitro Kart has absolutely no sense of speed or heaviness to the karts to make it feel like you're burning rubber against the terrain. It feels like you're floating along it. It's very flat and unreactive, which wouldn't be so bad if the jumping and drifting didn't feel limp and splatty, and the turning didn't feel like you were unfolding an ironing board, but it does. Especially with the highest speed, lowest turn characters, unless you're drifting, it barely feels like you even turn at all, and you even slow down if you hold a turn for too long, because clearly someone thought you weren't going slow enough. Even driving into the levels is a pain. Driving into the levels is difficult. Stop judging me, it's very hard. Oh look, we've got a boss race heading our way. I wonder who will be fighting from the Crash universe today. This delightful little cherub is called Crunk. Don't know who he is? Neither do I. And instead of being introduced in a comically personalized way, where he's talking directly to the camera and intimidating the player, he instead gets forced into racing us by Velo. And then he says, "Nah, I don't want to race them, they're smelly." And then Velo says,
"Oh, come on, please, Daddy."
and then Crunk says yes. Yeah, that is the quality of the boss races we have in Nitro Kart. And as for the race itself, well, I've got to be honest, I'm not even sure it was a race. See ya later, monkey beta! The pathetic boss races aren't all either when it comes to the difficulty of Nitro Kart. In fact, when you mix in the Team Frenzy mechanic and new boost formula that is outright broken when you get the hang of it, this ends up becoming the easiest kart racer I think I've ever played. And the boss races don't even allow you to use Frenzy, so that's how easy they are. Topping all of this off is a piddling number of tracks compared to CTR as well. And even though this is supposed to be a high-tech advanced PS2 follow-up to Crash Team Racing, Nitro Kart ends up being one of the most unpolished games I've ever played. Constantly clipping through the floor is one thing, but it's another thing when the frame rate tanks whenever there's more than 3 karts on the same screen. I genuinely love the track designs and the visuals of Nitro Kart, but even if you can get past the performance problems, there's no point coming back to this whatsoever since it controls worse than Crash Team Racing and doesn't feel as good to play, which in a kart racer I would argue is the main thing you need to get right. That's why games like Mario Kart 64 or Double Dash hold up so well after all these years. Yeah, they've put some of the tracks from these games in the future installments, but you can always feel safe going back to these ones because you know you're going to be having a great time controlling the karts. Oh, and by the way, the loading screens are terrifying. Papu Papu is many things. He's a belly, he's a terrible boss fight, he's a laughing stock, and he's a stereotype. But he has his own racetrack in Crash Team Racing, one of my favorites in fact, Papu's Pyramid. But getting the platinum relic for it makes me want to snap my own neck. First of all, you've got to go around the track as fast as possible, which makes sense. It is a time trial, but if you go too fast, you'll fly straight over the only chance you have to hit certain time boxes. Secondly, you've got to perform a very awkward jump right off of the edge of the track in order to hit a clump of boxes, going against common sense, and with it being at a ridiculously weird angle that's very easy to mess up. Thirdly, this stage is guilty of the crime of placing some of these crates in the most dangerous and downright silly of places that are not only immensely difficult to hit while driving quickly, but even harder to hit without being instantly killed by the traps placed right next to them. You all saw this one coming, right? Sewer Speedway? I'd say this level is the hardest one to Platinum Relic by far, and it's on the first world of the adventure mode. The easy culprit alone for why this track is so difficult is, of course, that horrible shortcut jump that you have to land at least once to grab a load of hidden time crates. But that's not actually what I dislike about this level, believe it or not. Check it, I can perform this jump nearly every single time I try it. Once you know you need to take the ramp before it, dead straight before you jump after performing a boost from the inside of another pipe, it's really not an issue. What I have an issue with is the ditch-like level design that doesn't work too well with the camera and hides time crates in its crevices so well that you will miss a good handful of the crates on your first few attempts. The camera in this track likes to screw you over more than anything else actually. One of the first jumps hides a box on the ground after you land that you just have to guess the position of as you land. There are crates hidden behind the corners of some of the edges of the sewer pipes, and there's even these 3 crates here that can't all be hit on the 3 laps because of the shortcut lap you need to take that avoids them. So hitting all of these alone is enough of a pain. I could also complain about the giant toxic barrels that roll back and forth just slowly enough that predicting what edge of the tunnel you need to be on is a pipe dream. But more egregious to me is this box. This singular box. Right here. Looks very easy to get, doesn't it? Well, you won't get it. To this day, I still have no idea how to hit this crate without the will of God, and whenever I do hit it successfully, that run is later ruined by the toxic barrels and other hidden boxes cowering in the curves of the half pipe that I can't quite see around. Now, there are actually a few Crash Bandicoot LCD games floating around out there, including 2 mini arcade cabinet-styled ones, and there's even this one from Tiger Electronics themselves, where you need to do what Crash does best: locate the treasure of the mysterious Mr. Cruel. My favorite Crash character next to Dr. Naughty. Now I know what you're thinking. Daddy Caddy, that's not a game. Look, just open it up like a walkie-talkie and you have a video game. We turn it on, the game boots up, and what about the game itself? It's actually, miraculously enough, a 3D platformer that you can freely control. Okay, so believe it or not, there's actually a reason for this. This here is not your standard Tiger Electronics game. It's actually a special edition version of a Tiger handheld known as a 99X. Hence, this game is commonly referred to online as Crash Bandicoot 99X. Simply put, they were more advanced than their cheap pound shop counterparts, but not by much. I mean, the graphics actually move, so that's a start. I also don't know if you happen to notice that the only one I managed to find online doesn't even work properly, and most of the graphics just aren't there. I don't know, guys, this is completely unplayable. You're better off playing with a meringue. Oh my god, you can get two of them together and mount them for multiplayer? There's more LCD screen Crash games that were free toys from McDonald's? Nope, these numbered spines don't belong to a collection of Crash Bandicoot encyclopedias. They actually belong to a series of even more LCD screen Crash games. This time though, they were released in 2005 for free from McDonald's Happy Meals. Except I had to buy them on eBay. They mostly only require 2 buttons to work, nothing moves, they all take place on a single printed picture, and the noise. Oh man, the noise. Yes, essentially, I spent money on a load of free toys that most kids threw in the bin, and all I have to show for it is a herd of geese. Nails on a chalkboard is a compliment to these things. Visuals suck, the gameplay sucks, and I know, I'm missing quite a lot of the numbers from this collection, but there is a reason for that. It's because all of the other even numbers belong to Spyro LCD games that released at exactly the same time. But let's not get ahead of ourselves, we're not touching him for a while. There were also some other Crash Bandicoot McDonald's toys exclusive to other regions, so I couldn't get my hands on them. This is Crash Advance 4 on the Game Boy Advance, and from the offset, this is some disappointing cover art. From a distance, you'd actually think it was the real thing, and that sucks. Crash doesn't even have his nipple knees, and it gets even more disappointing when you start the game because it looks really normal too, aside from the slightly lawsuity music. There's something strange in your neighborhood. Who you gonna call? The policeman. Level 1, Dreamlike Water City. And the environment is fine, the enemies are taken straight out of other Crash GBA games, Crash himself doesn't look like an orange toilet with suspenders on. What could there possibly be to talk about? Well, how about this? Where the hell am I going? Where am I landing? Where are the pits? Where are the enemies? I have no clue because everything is too zoomed in. Oh, and by the way, this isn't a special attack or anything. Crash just throws shit now, and it's bright blue because he's throwing his own tears since his own face up here makes him cry. You better stop crying though and keep yourself hydrated, Cash, because this place you're in has like 5 million suns. Whenever you think you've seen the last one, another one pops in. How is everything here not a liquid? All you do here is run, jump, play bowling, bounce on solid gold prolapses, and pray to God that wherever you jump doesn't immediately end with you falling into a pit and dying instantly. But it doesn't matter how much you pray, you will keep falling. Your God does not listen. There is a way around this though. Whenever you throw things, you freeze in midair. So whenever you want to make your jump a big old longy, you can keep it going basically forever and land wherever you want nice and safely. Want to see something weird? Even if you die and start the level over again, whenever you kill this specific enemy, the music completely changes. I couldn't get past level 1. I tried at least twice. I give up easily. Not to mention the game is quite obviously horrible, which is extra sneaky because the way the cartridge looks and the way the game itself looks gives you the impression that it might at least be a tiny bit decent. But no. However, despite all of this, I'm gonna give Crash 1 out, Bash 1 out the benefit of the doubt. If I take my playthrough of all the trophies and bosses and then add them to the gem, crystal, and gold relic challenges listed in order from shortest to longest, in order for my personal playthrough to get the required 28 trophies, 4 bosses, 25 gems, 23 crystals, and 21 gold relics to unlock every possible mini-game, that would have taken me an absolute minimum of 7 hours, 1 minute, and 1 second. Not to even complete the game, but to unlock all available mini-games to play with your friends who likely hate you now since you spent 7 hours indoors playing Crash Bash in order to unlock everything, therefore you never want to play the game again, and the sight of another pogo stick triggers you to grab a trench coat and a shotgun gun. But is also 7 hours of replaying slight variations of the same 10 base mini-game types, which ultimately are all mediocre at best. 7 hours of mid-tier Mario Party on your own, or 7 hours of Sonic Shuffle. Again, that 7 hours is just me being generous and organizing all my footage for the challenges from shortest to longest length. If you choose to get all 28 of everything as you go just to be safe, do you want to know how long that took me? I'll tell you. 10 hours, 49 minutes, and 10 seconds. My God. Consider once again the Pogo minigame. In my complete 10 hours, 49 minutes, and 10 seconds save file, 1 hour, 24 minutes, and 37 seconds of that was just replaying slight variations and challenges of the exact same Pogo game. Including victories, I attempted this basic idea 38 times. My favorite thing that I found from Japan specifically, though, this is a Crash Team Racing toy made from rubber. I shit you not, this is a 1-inch tall Crash Team Racing figure from Japan made entirely from orange rubber. Why does this exist? Who bought this? Why did I spend possibly the highest amount of money per tenth of a pound of rubber in existence for it? So that I could show you on camera in a video that there is a Crash Team Racing figure from Japan made entirely from orange rubber. I don't know what to say. What can I say? It's one color, it doesn't move, when you throw it on the floor, it doesn't bounce back to you, flies outside and never comes back. If you use it as an English rubber, it's not very good, and if you use it as an American rubber, then you have a very strange knob. But hey, if you think that's a bad contraceptive, then take a look at this on my shelf. It's the complete opposite. It's such a good contraceptive that it repels women before they even go near me. This here is the Insane Trilogy limited Crash statue from First for Figures, released in 2017, number 969 out of 1,450, and it is brilliant. But with something like this, I'm not getting any of that. The level of detail is meticulous, from the creases on his trousers to the shading in his hair. He's not too cute, not too ugly, not too manic, not too sane, and he even has a belly button, reminding you that he had to have his cord cut. It even comes with Crash's social security card, where he IDs himself as a painful vegan crap. And so the circle of life carries on, from something very big to something very small. These are, yet again from Japan, nano blocks. Basically Lego, but 1,000 times smaller, 1,000 times harder, and instead of hurting your feet, the pieces vanish into your skin, never to be seen again. Even though imported from Japan, these little things in the UK at least are available in pretty much every major game shop at extremely cheap prices, and so as a Lego fan, I couldn't say no to them. This is the complete set of Crash block sets, and they are extremely neat, but also a total joke at the expense of anyone that bought them. They are the most awkward, fiddly, and delicate pieces of bastard I've ever seen. Building them requires an engineering degree, and they fall apart if you so much as breathe on them. I hate it whenever I need to move these little idiots around, because there is a 98% chance my beloved engine will lose his legs and turn into Humpty Dumpty. And then after all of that, I had to platinum relic every level in Crash Bandicoot: The Wrath of Cortex. Wrath of Cortex is a very polished game that has no flaws whatsoever. You see these neon feather reflections? You see this falling down animation activating when being burned in lava? You see these floating eyes after a pitfall death? Yeah, all of that was clearly intentional. If you were to class this game as Crash 4, which I suppose it is in Japan, then this is the official final Crash platformer with the exact same mechanics and gameplay structure as Crash 3. With that being said, getting the platinums here was thoroughly unenjoyable, because the levels are either way too difficult or way too easy and totally boring. There were tons of levels that I could have picked for this mini list. I would say Smokey and the Bandicoot for the uncontrollably slippery Jeep controls, but the time limit for the platinum is so generous you can basically rush through it while missing a ton of time crates. I would say Crashteroids because of how quickly you can blow up. I would say Avalanche for that nightmare sequence of speed snowboarding down a hill, totally unable to see which time crates you need to hit. And I would say Banzai Bonsai for the much heavier platforming style of Coco, making things just a little bit harder than necessary. But all of these things didn't end up making the cut, so these levels I picked will go to show you how buggered they are for getting a platinum. The Gauntlet. I mean, the level is named after exactly what it is. It's a gauntlet, a giant trial of seemingly endless obstacles, enemies, and death traps that will turn you bald. The timings of the obstacles are annoying time wasters when you approach them wrong. You need to keep as many Aku Aku masks on you as possible to survive some of the enemy attacks when you are unable to defend yourself, and there's no feeling quite like making it to the very last corner of the gauntlet only to press yourself into a pancake. Coral Canyon, a water level in a game where all of the water levels suck the life out of me. I majorly dislike the water levels in Wrath of Cortex for how overly spacious everything is, and yet despite that, how suddenly enemies and instant death traps can appear because they come from the other end of the screen that isn't even visible because the level is so huge. And that's the biggest problem here, trying to rush these levels with enemies appearing from thin air, thin water, while trying to figure out where the hell the time crates even are because you don't get enough of a view of the level on a single screen. Oh, did I also mention that most of this level takes place in a submarine that really needs to go on a diet? In this thing, you don't only move like a tank, but you are a huge target, can barely attack fast enough to react to the hundreds of enemies, and the metal casing gets completely obliterated if you so much as touch a goldfish. That, and here's a bugger, when you're out of the sub, did you know that the fast swim move you have, you know, to fast swim, doesn't get you the platinum relic by default? No, because you need to know to use the death tornado spin move. Yeah, underwater, which you can't do in any other Crash game. So if this was the quickest way to move in the first place, why give us a fast swimming button? Why is steering during the spin like turning an oven dial? Why do we even need a sub if we're more safe and deadly being out in the open? Eskimo Roll's platinum relic is best described as being the same thing that Crash is rolling around in. A massive lumpy ball. I think I'm one of the few people who will defend the ball rolling stages in Wrath of Cortex until I die. I think they're great fun. But when thrown into level design like this that you have no choice but to speed through, it all becomes wretched. This is easily the most perilous ball rolling stage in the game and is desperate at every opportunity for you to lose control of yourself and fly directly into a conveniently placed Bandicoot rolling ball vehicle shaped hole, which ends up happening all the time. Not counting the times that you're trying to be careful and get sucked into the hole's irresistible grasp. Oh, and who's this? Why, it's Dingodile firing randomly in scattered patterns right where you need to be. And since you have to rush this stage, if he's firing at you as you roll by, you'll end up turning your nice solid ball into a hard-boiled egg. Oh look, it's Tiny Tiger as well. What the hell are you gonna do to me after all the previous games? Oh god, don't nudge me. That's my one weakness. Okay, so now the stupid stuff is out of the way, let's dig into all the portable Crash games that most of you are probably familiar with. The Game Boy Advance games. And to say that I'm familiar with these is a huge understatement. As a kid, I adored the first two games, and even though I only recently tried out Crash Nitro Kart on the GBA, I can confidently say I would have loved that as a kid too. I mean, think about it, these were the first proper Crash games that were actually portable and made it to portable systems, so you can imagine how exciting that was for a 7-year-old Crash fan. The first one came out in 2002 and was called Crash Bandicoot The Huge Adventure, also known as Crash Bandicoot XS in Europe, and it accomplished everything it needed to do at the time by keeping things simple. It took the 2D sections from the PS1 classics, crushed them down to fit into 16-bit style graphics, and just made a whole game out of it. But maybe they made things a little too simple. Not only does it just take still images from Crash 3's cutscenes and not even make the dialogue entertaining, somehow he even manages to shrink the entire planet down to the size of a beef tomato and does nothing but hold it there until Crash can stop him at the very end of the game. And that's not all. The controls for basic running, jumping, and spinning may be great and feel really tight, but as soon as sliding and slide jumping gets involved, all of a sudden the jumps become extremely unresponsive. Then there's the occasional leaps of faith, the dreadful Tiny Tiger boss fight, the terrible final Cortex boss, and the level that's called Snow Job, so the game ain't perfect. But damn it, for a 2002 GBA game and a Crash game in general, it's a really good time, especially when it comes to the impressive chase sequences and the flying stages, which I will say right now are some of the best in any Crash game. It even manages to bring back the unlockable boss power-ups from Crash 3 and forces you to use them far more than Crash 3 ever did. There's the box gems to collect, the time trial relics, the belly flopping, and even a secret unlockable final boss. Basically, it's everything you'd want from a portable Crash game. Not like this $250 2-in-1 hairbrush and mirror set. It's a mug shaped like Crash's hand. This is not fake, this is real. Look, it says so right here on the box. It's a Crash Bandicoot shaped mug, even though I don't remember Crash Bandicoot being shaped like that. Look at this joke. If a bomb dropped every time I said the word why about this design, it wouldn't be too many bombs, so I could live with it. The gags just write themselves. I mean, what do you expect me to do with it? And even if I were being sensible, all I could think about while drinking from this is the sweat in between Crash's sandy fingers. Would you drink water from someone else's hand like that? I wouldn't even do it with my own hand, and I know where my hands have been. Huh, look at these. How awesome are they? Japanese Crash Bandicoot manga. These are official too. It's a shame I can't read them, but they are class either way. Just looking at them is enough for me. Check out Cortex here. Why does he look like a big fish? I suppose I could always get the basics and use Google Translate, but then we end up with Bandicoot Sight and Spudgers is a big adventure, Bandic Jansu is a big adventure in class, and Pandicta Adventure with TM 900,000 Big Bandic Motads. I think it's a better idea for me to just start learning Japanese instead. Oh. Do books catch diseases? While still on the topic of Japan, here are a couple of little tiny Crash figurines from there. If I'm right in my research, then specifically these are from the Universal Studios theme park in Japan, possibly from gacha machines, but I'm not sure. These are notable for two reasons. First of all, because this is one of the only pieces of merch for Penta Penguin I think I've ever seen, very quaint. And secondly, because this is the best pose Crash has ever been in. Just when you thought they couldn't mess it up anymore and that they should have let Crash Team Racing die with dignity, here we have another Crash kart racer, Tag Team Racing. But it's okay because Jetix Magazine says it's the best Crash game ever, and everyone knows who Jetix Magazine is, so immediately I do have to give Tag Team Racing some credit. The story mode here is at least something different. The plot here is that you're battling Cortex and accidentally stumble into a theme park built entirely for roller coasters and racetracks. Is that a wang? And you get roped into recovering the power sources for each of the theme park's lands that were mysteriously stolen from Von Clutch over here. But we're only helping him to do that because whoever does help him wins ownership of the entire park, which Cortex really wants to do, and we can't let him do that. So Tag Team Racing is yet another Crash kart racer, if you couldn't tell. It's CTR and Nitro Kart again, but with a million extra pointless mechanics, and in my opinion, it's even worse. The car controls are unbearably stiff. The track designs are the opposite of interesting. The shortcuts barely mean anything, the music is boring, the engaging and skill-based jumping drift to boost system has been totally removed and replaced with an awful power slide move that doesn't even help that much. But the worst thing about it, to me at least, is the main gimmick that separates this racer from the rest, the clashing system. In any race at any time, the character you pick can turn into a ghost and clonk their way into another car of your choosing to merge with them. And as we all know, nobody can clink the clonk as good as Crash Bandicoot. By doing this, you briefly turn the game into Mario Kart Double Dash but for war criminals, since you can swap between driving the car or aiming a weapon that has now attached itself onto the car in order to blow up everyone else until you run out of ammo. On paper, this sounds like the coolest addition ever. It's like Crash Team Racing meets Twisted Metal, especially since there's plenty of characters with unique weapons, there's loads of vehicle types with different defense, speed and handling options, and plenty of unique visual combinations for certain karts clashing together. But all of this falls apart like soggy bread once you realise that you only need to clash with one car, and then you've automatically won every single race. Engine. You see, Engine's weapon he has are these rockets, and they are so overpowered, I'm pretty sure they could be used in tactical warfare. With these rockets, you mow everybody down with no effort, 1 to 2 hits max with splash damage. And whenever you're gunning, the CPU in the driver's seat goes around the track as perfectly as possible. So just make sure you fire the rockets, detach from your host like a dying flea right before the end of the 3rd lap because you get thrown forward every time you do detach, and then you'll find that you win every single time. When you're in this state, you are in complete control. You are a parasite. The helpless sap you attach to can't ever force you off. There's no time limit for this or penalty for overusing it. You can use overpowered race items in conjunction with the rockets. If you get blown up by other races, you recover 2 seconds later, still in the clash formation. And the best thing, if you run out of rockets, you can always detach and then immediately reattach again to get all of your ammo back. Sure, you can always switch driving positions and let the computer player shoot down the bogeys, but why would you do that when you can effortlessly get rid of the competition and not have to deal with the painfully unsatisfying driving mechanics? You could always say that this is an optional mechanic, I suppose, except it isn't, because if you don't clash with another car in any race, then you're a very weak target to every other car firing at you, and you explode so much as tumbleweed touches you. Not to mention, again, you're stuck with kart racing mechanics that feel like you're derailing a train, and other racers can attach themselves to you at random with as much consent as a Weinstein. Basically, if you don't clash, you lose, so why wouldn't you choose to clash with the most powerful weaponed racer? And then, once you unlock Engine shortly into the game, it all becomes even easier since you don't even need to look for him in the race to grab his rockets. You can clash at the very start of the race to guarantee victory with any car without breaking a sweat. Look at these KOs. Look at these KOs. For a 3-lap race lasting around 3 minutes, this means I was averaging 7 KOs per minute. And so at this point, why does the track design matter? Why do the visuals matter? Why do the shortcuts matter? For even a small fighting chance in Tag Team Racing, you have to use this clash mechanic, which means you'll end up doing the same thing repeatedly to win every time. Even the other modes for each track have similar approaches to them. Oh, and did you know?
This game is a platformer?
Yeah, Tag Team Racing also has a giant hub world that's as much of a single game as the racing itself, despite being called Tag Team. And my god, look at this. Look at this performance. The game didn't run spectacularly in the races, but this looks worse than my granddad's slippers. Couldn't you guys just focus on getting one gameplay style nailed instead of forcing as much in as possible? The jumping and general running around controls are so slippery and floaty, it's practically impossible to control where you're aiming towards, and even the spinning attack is lazy. See this? This isn't a Death Tornado spin power-up from the other games. This isn't a super spin. This is just what happens when you hit square over and over again. The animation resets and you can keep spinning forever, meaning that no enemies will give you any trouble. No shits were given at all, my lumpies and germs. You also get interrupted a lot by Chick and Stu, who you may recognize from Nitro Fueled as the chickens who announce all the DLC Grand Prix. I hate them there, and I hate them even more here. To be totally fair to Tag Team though, despite not being that fun to control, I do admire a few things they do in this overworld system. Firstly, they turned the death animations Crash is famous for into an explorative gameplay mechanic, as you can go on a scavenger hunt looking for hidden specific death cutscenes that quite often got a chuckle out of me. Secondly, these are some pretty expansive and densely designed hub worlds, especially on the vertical plane, and all the pockets of coins you find are able to purchase more outfits for your characters, more cars, and even a few crystals that you need in order to open the gates that will take you to the next power gem you need to progress to the next world. There's a reason to explore other than finding the next race, and I like that. You know what though, now that I think about it, the balance is a bit too skewed in the platforming's favor, because winning a race only rewards you with 2 crystals, whereas you're going to be able to buy and find more hidden crystals in the overworld much faster in order to open up all these gates in the hub worlds to then find the hidden power gems and skip a huge chunk of the game without even doing a single race.
Welcome to Crash Tag Team Racing, where we don't like racing.
Overall though, Tag Team Racing is an absolute mess, and in my opinion one of the lowest points of Crash's console career. It tries to appeal to everyone, but ends up impressing no one. Half of it is Crash Team Racing, but with worse controls, worse performance, worse visuals, broken mechanics, and boring stale track design, while the other half is Twinsanity, but with worse controls, worse performance, worse visuals, worse enemies, and barely any really challenging platforming. Don't forget either, the boss fights, they're just variations of the same mini-games as well. Tanks, fighting, Polar Bear, Pong. Even they're not original. With all of the inane repetition you have to go through, you'd think that the simplest thing the game could do is repeat its own introductory cutscene into a paragraph of the manual that comes with it. But even then, I guess the writer of the book couldn't even bear to boot up the game and watch the first thing that you see, because they wrote that Aku Aku summons Tiny Tiger and Dingadal immediately because he persuaded them to fight for the good guys, but that's not what happened. By the way, it's not just the 7 to 10 hours of repeating the same 10 base minigames at gradually harder difficulties that's a problem on its own. It's because the minigame challenges themselves are mostly completely up to chance. Chance is part of the fun with this kind of game, and skill is just a bonus that'll only help occasionally. You don't want to play a party game where you just steamroll everyone all of the time after a potential 10 hours of practice, but that in itself is the problem, because this is a single player mode of this kind of game that by design does have a lot of luck elements. So all of the retries you'd have to do are most of the time completely out of your control. It is a joke, especially in the gem, crystal, and relic challenges when you're dealing with luck on top of AI tuned to a being not dissimilar to an angry god about to set the world on fire and doesn't even have the minimal decency to give you a fan. It's so dependent on luck, in fact, that for the PE warm-up Keg Kaboom, I failed 1 time trying to get the hardest difficulty gold relic. I failed 3 times trying to get the 2nd hardest crystal. I failed 1 time trying to get the 3rd hardest gem, but then I failed 2 times trying to get the easiest trophy. The first 5.5 minutes of those attempts being 1 loss and 1 tie after 1.5 minutes of nothing but walking around and hoping for the best. Tiny beat all of us by nearly 300 points on the trophy. I spent nearly 10 minutes trying to get the steaming trophy here, and it was nearly all dust in the wind. Look at this scenario. 2-all, including the tie that doesn't score anything. We had already played 5 rounds of walking around emptying our mother's ashes all over the floor. 7.5 minutes of this. And if Tiny won the final round, I would have had to have done it all over again. Because of the random factor, even the easiest trophy matches can be no slouches. On level 11, The third polar bear stage, on my first attempt, I spent just under 2 minutes losing to Tiny 3 times in a row, meaning I had to start the minigame over again. One crystal challenge you will see online group therapy sessions about is sky balls. It sounds simple enough. You play the game like normal, but just have to avoid red balls that will end the game as soon as you touch them. However, that's not exactly accurate, because how it really works is that every ball is normal, and then every so often, at random, one of the balls kicked by another player will then turn red. So if you're preparing yourself to guard against a player's kicked ball towards you, there's every chance it will be a good ball 1 second and then fly towards you as a deadly red ball. All the while you have to try scoring against the others, all the while having to try and dodge the rogue red balls that bounce towards you that weren't even aimed at you, all the while trying to save your goal from all of the other normal balls, all the while considering that if the red ball goes into another player's goal, it doesn't count as a score. Lots of people, especially speedrunners, hate this challenge, and most of the time they don't even go for it, and it's easy to see why. But for this video, when I was dreading this challenge above most of the others, do you know how many times it took me to do this? 1. No, I'm not kidding. 1 attempt, 2 minutes total playtime. Is it because I've now played Rash Scratch so much that I'm just that skilled at it? No. It was pure, unfiltered, no MSG luck. I was just accidentally in the right positions at the right micro instances, and there weren't that many red ball appearances. It's all random. Same thing happened on the Crystal Challenge for Pogo Padlock, where the only way to score points and paint your own tiles is by stealing them from other players. How do you steal them? By grabbing a missile power-up and hitting another player. It's luck if you are close enough to a missile power-up to grab it, luck if there's no other player that has a missile and is close enough to attack you and make you lose the missile, luck if you are able to fire it quick enough at a close enough player, luck if that player just so happens to have enough painted squares to steal, luck if a point box is even nearby for you to then bank your points when you do steal, luck if no other players paint over what you've already stolen before that moment, and luck if nobody else fires a missile at you, stealing back all of the painted tiles that you just so happen to steal, and then luck that no point box appears near them so they can bank all of those points and then make it impossible for you to catch up. Sounds like a nightmare, doesn't it? Well, do you want to know how long this took me? 3.5 minutes. 2 attempts. That's it. It's luck. At least we're getting content out of it. Oh, look, I got shot again. That's a surprise. Yeah, check this out. It's a Crash Team Racing nitro-fueled watch. Perfect for those moments where you don't want to tell the time because it's broken. But hey, at least I can go about my day knowing that it's 1/4 nose. It has new batteries in it, but it just doesn't move. I don't get it. How is it that something I ordered from my own country ends up breaking in transit, but then this 23-year-old Crash Team Racing RC car from America doesn't? Yeah, how fantastic is this? It's a genuine CTR remote-controlled car. But I wasn't going to display something as sick as this. I'm going to take it out and use it. It wasn't cheap. I'm going to get my money's worth. Hello. This is official as well. Yeah, I couldn't believe it either, but yeah, there's the packaging, licensed by Activision. It's horrible, isn't it? And I also didn't realize that this was wired. It's not a wireless RC car, so I'm not expecting miracles, but let's get it into gear. It does have a back button, which turns him the wrong damn direction. His wheels also go over the wire when he's turning, so this isn't really working out how I... There we go. And that's kind of the extent of that, I suppose. That wasn't too impressive, was it? That was 2-button, wired RC car that doesn't turn and doesn't go that quick. I think it's a bit of a waste of money. Why do kids need all this plastic light-up electric shit anyway? Can't they be happy with a ball from the Insane Trilogy promo launch? And hey, check that out. They've even spelled crunch in magnetic letters on the fridge here. It's almost like that's referencing something from another Crash 4, but I don't know. I think I made that up. So let's get one thing straight before anything else. Is Crash 4 any good? Yes. Yes, it is. In fact, if you look at this game purely through the lens of its controls and level design, it's probably the best game of the entire Crash series, and an engaging platformer in general, even if you don't like Crash games. Everything you know and love about Crash, though, is here and accounted for. You've got a 3D linear corridor-based platforming game with boxes to break, Wumpa Fruit to collect for extra lives, bouncy boxes, occasional side-scrolling parts, TNT that detonates after 3 seconds when bouncing on them, nitro crates that explode when you touch them, Aku Aku masks for extra hit points and brief invincibility, bonus platforms, gems to collect. So none of that is new or surprising, but everything else around that is. This level design here is easily the most varied, interesting, and challenging in the whole Crash series, with the dimension hopping story giving you so many different possibilities for visuals, enemy designs, and platforming tasks. You'll be seeing level design here that doesn't only require thought and split-second decision making, but that also has a great deal of flow, since you can see so much more of the level coming up than in any other game in the series, meaning you can pre-plan a lot of what you're going to do before running along, which keeps the pace going. Mix that in with the new abilities to swing on ropes and grind on rails all Ratchet and Clank style, and you've got yourself a fast-paced and thoroughly enjoyable time, with any and all new gimmicks added in, not straying away from the core of Crash's platforming and box-breaking gameplay. I'd say Crash 4 is on the same level as the original Crash 1 in terms of condensed and difficult platforming, but expanded and broadened way more, which also helps contribute to the flow of the gameplay, where Crash 1 is very patience-heavy and stop and go. Oh, and I can't forget to mention that aside from a couple of instances, they even managed to get rid of all of the branching path rubbish from Crash 1, 2, and 3, where you have to pick one path to go down and then backtrack with an awkward camera that doesn't help you at all through the other path to get everything. And saying that, even in the couple of instances where they are used here, they're extremely short and nowhere near as bullshit hard as they can be in the original trilogy. The flow here is also helped along massively by the controls. My god, if the controls in this game were a cereal, they'd be the best cereal. First off, the physics and weight to Crash or Coco are spot on. Standard movement has just the right speed, your basic jump has exactly the same speed as your momentum and an absolutely perfect arc, and the mid-air control this time around is 10 times more manageable to coincide with the more tricky platforming. You start the game off with the double jump already equipped, and it feels so good to use here. Not only does it give you the extra height you'd expect, but the hang time in the air you get before landing makes crate bouncing puzzles and really tight platforming sequences no issue at all. You can also activate the second jump in mid-air basically whenever you want, meaning no awkward timing issues to learn from Crash 3's double jump, and also an insane amount of extra distance you can obtain by jumping again right at the tail end of a single jump. It also works as a great last-minute save. Then there's the slide and the slide jump. It's back, and I'm not the biggest fan, to be honest, but for the level design of this game, it works really well. The slide itself is fine, and you can even do a second slide while in the middle of a crawl, which is a lifesaver in many stages, but the slide jump is a little unnatural to me, and when comparing it to how often I used it in Crash 2 or 3 or Wrath of Cortex, I really didn't use it as much here unless it was absolutely necessary, and this is for one reason. As soon as your jump activates after a slide, you lose all of your forward momentum. You get the height, make no mistake, but there's no smooth arc to the slide jump here. It feels like a little arm pulls you back as soon as you slide jump. It kills the flow of the platforming if you try to use it as a replacement for basic jumps in trickier sequences, and the difference is clear when comparing it to the original games or even the Insane trilogy. The momentum-killing mid-air rubbish should only be reserved for double jumping, since you're trading the extra height for distance if you need to jump again after already committing to a single jump. The double jump is almost like you're saving yourself, so the cost of that is slowing you down in mid-air a tad. The slide jump, though, should not feel like that, because there's already a risk to using it. The trade-off here is that you get extra height and distance for a single jump, but you have to cope with this weird, extreme speed boost at the beginning of the jump, and potentially open yourself to hitting nitro and TNT crates, which will explode if you touch them in the middle of a slide. But this is honestly kind of nitpicky. It's only because I'm very familiar with Crash games at this point. Where the slide jump actually rocks in this game, though, is with the hang time you can get in mid-air if you slide off of a ledge or a box. Not only extremely cool, but a necessary mechanic for some of the later challenges, so I can't stay mad at the slide jump for much longer. I just think it feels way better to use in the original trilogy. By the way, whoever added in that feature of a bright circle that shows you exactly where you're going to land, even if you're 200 feet in the air, thank you. Crash Bandicoot Mega Drive, and I for one have a lot of faith in this one. I mean, after all, Crash and I go way back. We're so in sync. The cartridge of this is once again thoroughly disappointing. Everything is spelled correctly, it's an official render of Crash, it has balloons, and come on, who doesn't love balloons? Hey, where's Crash gone? Hello? Who have we got to thank for this game then? Ah, I see, KDS. Okay, we've got a sketchy title screen. Okay, we've got some words, I think that's what they are. What does Google Translate think it says? Dr. Cortex kidnaps the cream girl Theone in order for the cream to fill his Ilovi. Then the game starts up and... This is just Zero the Kamikaze Squirrel. No, I'm not trying to make a comparison joke, even though they are extremely funny. I mean, this is literally just Zero the Kamikaze Squirrel for the Sega Genesis. It's more of a ROM hack than anything, and even with that being said, it's a terrible one because the only hacked parts I could see were that you are a little bit sunburned, and instead of throwing ninja stars, you throw apples, because we all know how Crash Bandicoot loves his apples. Yes, they're apples. No, They're not what you think they are. They're apples. I can't say anything interesting about this. It isn't Crash Bandicoot. It's a squirrel named after how many shits I give about him. Here we are attempting a platinum rush in Gold Rush, one of the longest damn stages in all of Crash 4, which in itself is already a problem if you fail on any one of the number of tricky platforming segments and the doomsday obstacles in your way, because you've got a marathon of a stage to get back through in order to try again. It also has some very interesting physics, but the biggest flick in the nuts when it comes to Gold Rush are the utterly absurd stipulations you must comply to in order to make the platinum relic work. You see these areas here? Taking into account that this happens to you if you fall from the monkey bars, do you think that means that this is the fastest way you have to get around them? No! In fact, the game expects you to figure out that you need to glitch by the out-of-bound areas with post-hit invincibility from Aku Aku in order to walk on areas usually impossible to reach so that you can skip the monkey bars. This is the only stage that allows you to do this with pits that could usually kill you even if you've got an invincible Aku Aku mask on. For me, Droid Void was pure misery to try and platinum relic because it has everything I hate in a difficult time trial. A needless giant target vehicle type that is weaker than a flip-flop, a preposterous stage length, timed obstacles that will slow you down or kill you if you don't figure out how they work, long and horrifically boring parts that you find yourself redoing over and over again. Crash, how are you so slow on the monkey bars when your body is nothing but one giant peck? This monkey bar intro though is the cherry on top of the cake of lies. Who decided this was an acceptable speed of movement, even for the regular game? It takes you nearly a minute at the start of every attempt just to get to the actual challenging parts of the platforming, by which time you die trying to learn it, and so then you're right back at the start again. And the tricky platforming is just one thing. This mech that Crash rides, where totally fine in the standard game, is hellish to use in a platinum run, mostly due to the Wumper cannon never going off when you need it to for no reason whatsoever. You can't skip these parts, you need to blow the crates up, but I rarely can. What is this? You hold the button to aim and let go of the button to fire. Why am I dropping the gun and not firing it? Taking that aside though, like I mentioned, you're a huge target that's about as brittle as a champagne flute. Your jump from a standstill is painfully slow, and you need an Aku Aku hit point to skip this enemy, or the platinum isn't yours.
I hated every waking second I spent in Droid Void. But not as much as the time I spent in Crash Nitro Kart.
And may I just say that Crash Nitro Kart is one of the most flawless games I've ever played. I have no doubt in my mind that this was one of the worst games to platinum every level on. At its release, Crash Nitro Kart was met with mixed reception, and I'll tell you straight away why that is. The controls feel like you just ran over a deer. Okay, it's not that bad, I'm exaggerating, it's fine, but it's not a satisfying game to race in when compared to CTR or even Mario Kart. There's no bounce, no sense of speed, strangely restrictive turning, and the new drift mechanic of giving you more speed the closer you let the drift go before backfiring is nice and all, but for all the platinums, you had better make damn sure that all of your drift boosts are of the last minute perfect type, which are very easy to mess up, or else you're not getting the platinum. Combined with difficult steering even with the best steering character on your team, and you'll be missing boxes all the time, missing shortcuts with boxes in them all the time. So with all of this being said, most of the levels were maddeningly difficult for the exact same reasons. But what did I think about the hardest ones? This level is called and it has multiple traps that move very quickly and can't touch you once, boxes placed over the edges of the bottomless pits that you have to steer away from the track to reach and then back onto the track again just in the right amount of time. There's an ending level squashing trap that you can activate yourself accidentally, and it's extremely long, making any mistake, especially on the last lap, extra annoying. But I didn't find it anywhere near as annoying as Barren Ruins. As a whole, the track and box placements within it aren't really the issue, it's standard stuff. What becomes a problem is the aforementioned control style having a right good steam in your face while you're trying to hit some of the trickier ones. Keeping your speed up and steering correctly while avoiding these tiny bumps in the road is pretty aggravating, but the worst offender of bump placement in a kart racer of all time happens at the very end of this lap, where you're required, at max possible speed, to jump from here, land at the correct spot, and activate a successful string of perfect boosts while steering around this bump that can mess the entire pattern up, while then performing a successful ramp jump from another bump to not only land into this shortcut, but hit all the boxes contained within. If one of these things isn't done right, you aren't making this jump, and the retries I have for it are staggering. I even tried cheating it, I got so frustrated, but that ended up wasting more time than saving it, so I suppose you can say now that my day has been barren ruin. Deep sea driving is hard for one reason and one reason only. It isn't the shortcuts, it isn't the box location, animations, it isn't the slowing down mud sections, it's these fan blades. They're way too big, they're way too fast, there's way too many of them, you can't get touched by them once on all 3 laps, and I think they should deep sea die in a hole. This is a shock, isn't it? The final race course is one of the hardest to platinum? Well, it is, obviously. Hyperspaceway is a crazy track that has many shifts in course design during a single lap. It's got the most traps, it's got the most pitfalls, it's got the tightest turns, it's got the longest laps, making even the smallest mistake make me feel sick at the thought of trying again, and it has without a doubt the hardest shortcut in the whole game to get right. This one requires constant boosting and absolute speed in order to clear the gap, and there's even mud on the track right before the biggest gap to slow you down even if you are boosting. Oh, but if you go too fast before reaching the shortcut that you need to go fast on, you could just hop your way over the boxes you need to break like a cute little bunny that I now want to hunt down and skin. None of these tracks, though, compare even slightly to the mental damage that Jungle Boogie gave to me. This is one of the first levels of the game, so how could it possibly be this bad? Oh, it is. You are required to play the stage perfectly. No mistakes in the slightest. If you stop boosting at any point, you've lost. And the biggest joke added into the track is actually right at the very beginning, where I swear to Christ, it doesn't matter what speed you take this jump at, or what angle, or if you boost before it, or if you don't boost before it. It is simply pure luck whether or not you will even jump at all and make it across this gap. Then after that, the same applies for the shortcut jump. It sometimes works, and sometimes just doesn't. And even if you do make it, if you don't boost during the shortcut and hit the time crate on the only chance you have to hit it during the boost, you've got to nail these 2 pixel perfect jumps all over again because you just lost the platinum and need to start again. And this isn't even mentioning the extremely cramped track design compared to every other course, which loves to make some of the boxes way too difficult to hit with your stiff driving controls anyway. By the time I was done with this track, I was convinced that my house was for dinner. Crash Bandicoot 2 Entranced, the sequel nobody asked for, but by God they were getting it anyway. And if there were ever a perfect living, breathing example of the adage, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, this game is that. The story here is that Entropy is very cross with Crash Bandicoot, and he's so cross that he lays an egg. And the game itself is more or less exactly the same as Xylophone Saxophone, except with new locations that are much brighter and prettier than the first game, and feature new themes and colours for copied environments. There's new one-off level gimmicks that work really well, like the surprisingly tense shark wakeboard chases, and the surprisingly good 3D ball rolling segments that control really well despite being on a D-pad. And in general, the bosses are much better in quality too. Not to mention they're pretty unique, since instead of rehashing Crash villain boss fights, they're mostly possessed versions of your friends. And there's even a boss against fake Crash that's more of a puzzle as you trick him into oddly timed traps without you getting hit yourself. But why are you fighting your friends and simpleton clones of yourself? Well, that's because of my aforementioned son, the brand new Crash villain Entrance, an angry egg that was created by Entropy and is a gifted hypnotist. I particularly remember being stuck for ages on his final boss fight when I was 8 years old when this game first came out. It's a good fight, and it's even 2 phases, jumping from a Donkey Kong Country-esque fight at the very start to a bullet hell pinball fight. Going back though, it's not particularly hard or anything, it's just him. He upsets me. I think I was more intimidated by his design when I was a kid, and it caused me to make a ton of mistakes. I mean, look at his size here, and this face. This shitting face. You know what? I also don't like half of the power-ups here either. The Crash Dash is back for all the relic time trials, and yes, Crash still looks like a mangled child having a fit whenever he uses it. And the Death Tornado Spin is back, plus you even have the double jump from the very start of the game. First off is a Super Slide, which looks cool but mostly just fires you right into your death, and after that is the Rocket Jump, which looks cool but mostly just fires you right into your death. What I'm getting at is that they are entirely situational and are only useful whenever the game requires you to use them. As extra utilities to Crash's movement, they're terrible. And since they all involve you holding the L button, which is the same button for the Crash Dash, they balk the time trials because you will accidentally activate them in the middle of using the Crash Dash all the time. Plus, whenever you use the Rocket Jump, Crash's model looks like a weasel that just got run over. And he was probably run over by himself when he was in a go-kart on Crash Nitro Kart for the Game Boy. Now don't get me wrong, I'm fully aware how ridiculous the very idea of a GBA port of a PS2 game is. I mean, how do you put this in this. To be fair though, seeing as the most popular games in the GBA's library consisted of 16-bit styled games, it's really easy to forget that it could do 3D and do it relatively decently with minimal casualties. Crash Nitro Kart though? Nah mate. I mean, it's impressive from the outset with how detailed the character models are. Sure, they're bit crushed and pre-rendered from the PS2 models, but I'll be damned, they look pretty spot on. And even though the tracks suffer from the original Super Mario Kart problem of all of them feeling exactly the same because they're all flat, they still look great and run extremely smoothly. Except when there's more than 4 karts on the screen. But shit, man, aside from that, this is a great version of Nitro Kart. In fact, for how quickly it loads, the fact it's portable, and the fact it feels faster than the original because it's on a tiny screen, I'd argue this is the best version of Nitro Kart. It's got the power-ups, the bosses, a more catchy and memorable soundtrack, and they managed to keep in the risk-reward boost system that made Nitro Kart stand out to begin with, where you jump into a drift and then wait until the very last second of this gauge running out to activate the most powerful 3 combo boost you can. I also love the little things like how they tried simulating the wheels spinning around by having the top half of the wheel flash faster and faster. They even managed to include voice clips from the PS2 game. Despite all of these games not being perfect though, Crash XS, Crash 2 Entranced, and Crash Nitro Kart are a fantastic little trio for Crash's first proper dive into actual portable gaming. Now, what should I look at next? Crash Purple on the Game Boy Advance. It could have had a perfect little Game Boy Advance trilogy of Crash games, but they had to make another one. Ever since the late 90s, the 2 PlayStation mascots were very aware of each other and had been dropping hints and Easter eggs in their games cross-promoting each other, whether it be through secret demos on menu screens or even secret unlockable characters like in Nitro Kart GBA. So it only made sense that at some point, they should both get an official adventure. Here's Crash Purple and Spyro Orange. But you know what? I can't even pretend for a single second that I didn't absolutely love this game when I was 10, because I totally did, but we don't talk about that. It's actually known as Crash Fusion in Europe, and I spent hours and hours on it. So long, in fact, that I ended up getting every single collectible card in the game, which is only possible from not only finishing the entire game 100%, but also spending thousands of Wumpa Fruit at crate shuffling, shop stalls, and slot machines until you land on random cards that you may be missing, while also having a high chance of landing on cards that are duplicates, and you also need to play a shitload of multiplayer with another person with a Game Boy Advance and a copy of Spyro Orange. But hey, I got all the collectible cards in Crash Purple, so I don't care. I'm better than you. So yeah, the final GBA Crash game was part of a double pack that you also needed Spyro Orange for to complete. And I did a video on Spyro Orange itself a while ago. Long story short, it's a watered down and cookie cutter minigame collection. It's one of the worst games I've ever played, and every time I see it in public, I try to avoid it. The story here is that Cortex is good friends with Ripto from Spyro, and they want to work together. That's it. And then Crash and Spyro meet each other face to face for the first time ever in gaming history and decide to bomb each other with Molotov cocktails. These cutscenes as well are absolutely hideous. All they needed to do was get half-decent pictures to act as comic strip panels like in all the other Crash GBA games, and instead they gave Aku Aku kidney failure. But what about the game itself? Well, I'm thrilled to say it's nowhere near as terrible as Spyro Orange is, even though it's identical in structure. You have 2D overworlds where you do extremely basic platforming in order to find minigame levels hiding around, and then you beat all of them to open a boss and beat the boss to get to the next world. But unlike Spyro Orange, which relied on slow, boring, and piss-easy minigames that had nothing to do with Spyro's gameplay and were repeated with different sprites, at the very least, Crash Purple makes more of an effort to feel like a Crash game, even though you can't slide or slide jump in the platforming bits. Most of the minigames are Crash platforming related, whether it be side-scrolling auto riders on the polar bear, breaking all the boxes in a short stage as fast as possible, skimming across water on a motorized lemon, or falling down. Even when they aren't doing that, there is more variety to the minigames. There's methodical free-roaming tank stages, there's sheep blasting with a bazooka before they reach the nitro crates behind you. Well done, Crash, you murdered all of the baby animals. And there's even jetpack stages where you tap and hold the A button to control your height as you glide along. Don't misunderstand me though, there isn't anything that imaginative going on, and these money bags tends to spend all the Wumpa Fruit you collect are absolutely useless, since they're only good for collecting cards. This means that just playing the actual game here will only take you around an hour to 100% complete. I'm not kidding. Okay, more accurately, there's one more Nintendo Crash bootleg that isn't actually on a Nintendo console, but is based off of NES code and dumped alongside dozens of other NES games on this thing here, the Family Kara Oto, an entire knockoff console only sold in Brazil. It looks like a slim PS1, it has a gun, and it has teeth. My ideal spouse. And if you can find any of these things to buy online, then you're a better human than me, because I scoured for ages looking for somewhere to buy one safely, but all I could find were the company's Facebook page, a load of sketchy photos taken with an old pair of trousers, and a baby made of lard. This is starting to creep me out. Basically, wherever I looked, I could not get this console itself. Which is honestly a huge blow to my ego, because if I was able to find a fully boxed Japanese PS1 Winnie the Pooh microphone controller and a PS1 memory card floppy disk adapter, I have absolutely no excuse for this. Either way, on this special little device is a huge collection of illegal copies of 8-bit Nintendo games, including all the classics you'd expect, like Mario, Kirby, Mega Man, Alien 3, Nuts, Milk, Arabian, and Door, but even better, it also has a Crash Bandicoot game that is completely original and only available on this console. Unless you do a little bit of digging on foreign websites and find yourself a website. And find a website where someone from Portugal decided to take the console and rip all of the games that are on it individually and upload them for you to download. Yes, ladies and gents, this game we're going to emulate. And that makes me pretty cool. This game isn't hideous. It's playable. I'm speechless. But I'm gonna talk anyway. This is basically an 8-bit Crash game. What else is there to say? It looks like Crash, you've got the moves like Crash, there's Wumpa Fruit, boxes, the stages end and bring you to new stages. I was actually able to finish this game, if you can believe it. Sure, it only took me 4 minutes and 51 seconds, but I did it. Crash, I would do anything for you in those leather hot pants. Sadly, it is still a bootleg. It runs like a waste disposal unit. You can't spin while jumping, you change races when you die, and most of the time it isn't so much like you're playing a game and instead more like you're watching your nan fall over in the kitchen. But damn it, I wouldn't be surprised if you told me this was an 8-bit Crash Bandicoot fan project, not a weird Brazilian bootleg. Don't you just love it when choppy games like this struggle to load anything at the edges of the screen and it just shows you a load of garbled stomach acids and random colors? Running forward is always a surprise. You never know what's going to materialize from the edge next, like Crash's worst enemy, the salamander. Crash Bandicoot NES has not left me disgruntled. I'm gruntled. I need to calm down, and what better way to calm down than with this good loot Crash Bandicoot 4 jigsaw puzzle. Here is a Crash Bandicoot foam puzzle from the year 2000. I'd love to say this was cool and worth the price tag, but this doesn't even look legit. The artwork is so cheap. Is Crash holding a cane while waving to the royals? The logo is tacky, the drawings are tacky, it's way too easy. Hang on, is this for babies? Do babies do jigsaw puzzles with foam? Why foam? Is it so that you can do it in the bath? Who wants to solve jigsaw puzzles with Johnson & Johnson in your eyes? Here's another thing that's foamy and way too easy as a jigsaw. I did it. The official Crash Bandicoot mouse mat, for all the times you needed a Crash with no neck to keep you company while you spent more time on your computer, which is not where any of his games were available to play. This thing is ludicrous. How are you supposed to use it? It's comically small. I can barely fit my mouse. In fact, it's small enough to even be my mouse. Oh, I'm thirsty. Don't forget to hydrate. Oh, Jesus. They didn't think too much about this design, did they? I forgot that I'm trying to find something to calm me down. This is failing. I need something else, preferably something that isn't screaming at me. Oh, I know. This! At first glance, this thing is terrible. It's a cool figure of Crash in a kart, but the wheels don't spin, the arms don't turn, and the engine falls off. And that's because this is not just a figure. It's a figure with a purpose. For within the engine bay, you can put an incense cone, set it alight, and then holy shit, that is ace. Yeah, this is an official Crash Team Racing incense burner, and it's probably the only time in your life where willingly putting a fire in your car engine is a good idea. I love stuff like this. It's not only really cool just to look at on its own, but also has a practical use, and it just so happens that that practical use makes it look even cooler. This is some sick merchandise. These kinds of merch, honest to God, confuse my little bum. I am not against lights at all. I love lights, but these miniature battery-powered ones just don't do anything for me. They aren't that bright, they slam batteries down like a drunk, and they don't look particularly good either. I mean, just look at poor Crash. He looks like he's being slowly killed from radiation. The skin around his mouth crosses over the level of fleshy pink that I'm comfortable with. His stubby hands don't have any fingers. His arms look like they'd make wet slapping noises and smell of fish. Way too much time was put into the curvature of his cake, and what the hell is going on down here? He looks like a penguin in a G-string. The company that made these lights is called Paladone, and in their defense, there is one miniature battery-powered light they make that I do like. This TNT one. Not only because it's shaped like what it's supposed to be, but because in-game TNT glows after you jump on top of it, which is exactly the same idea here. It makes perfect sense if you're looking for an ideal quirky gift for a Crash Bandicoot fan. The best thing about it though is that it doesn't only light up when you push it down, but it even does the sound. Actually, Paladone also made this neat little thing, a USB nightlight of Crash suffocating in a jar. I don't get the theming, but I won't complain, it does look pretty cool. It feels like I've captured an endangered forest nymph. Okay, I have to admit, this isn't official. It's a Chinese bootleg king-size bed set. But can you blame me for ignoring my own rules for just one damn second, because this is the funniest shit I think I've ever seen. Can you imagine looking down in the morning and seeing Crash's greasy fingers resting on your chest? I can't think of a single reasonable justification for anybody wanting to buy this, bootlegged or not, so why is it available to buy? Who wants this? It's just that face, man. Whether you're sleeping, relaxing, or mashing one out, I can't tell if he's horrified or is waiting for his turn. Disgusting. Heinous. Criminal. And for God's sake, why are there 3 of them at once? And then there are the brand new masks to play with. You don't unlock any power-ups in Crash 4 after beating bosses, so instead you get these buddies as a consolation prize. Considering the amazing range you can get from a hang time slide last-minute double jump, I personally don't mind them getting rid of power-ups. And these guys here are a good middle ground compromise anyway, because they act more like a brief vehicle segment in another Crash game, and then you won't use them again until the next time that they're available. Except they're not a vehicle, they only require one button to press instead of learning an entirely new control scheme, and they're way more integrated into the platforming you're already doing to make the level more interesting. The first mask you recover, Lani Loli, allows you to shift between dimensions and make certain crates and obstacles pop in and out of existence to either phase right through them or land safely on them. He's also great for moments when you're under time pressure or on one of the new grinding sections for a nice bit of reaction-based puzzle solving to keep your mind occupied while just jumping and ducking under everything. After that is the mask Akano, who allows you to infinitely spin, not only allowing for metal crates to be smashed up that you'd usually have to belly flop, but also gives you some of the longest and floatiest jumps in the whole game, and the heights you can reach with him are sometimes criminal. Then we have Kapuna Wa, who allows you to slow time down to a crawl for around 5 seconds at a time, kill enemies easier, get across moving obstacles easier, and even walk across or bounce on top of nitro crates just before they explode, which takes that stupid, annoying, pointless tiptoe power-up from Wrath of Cortex and turns it into something way more responsive, way more interesting, and allows you to link more platforming segments together. Honestly, she speaks for herself, and she pops in during some of the most tense platforming sequences in the whole game, making you feel like a superhero when using her correctly. And then finally is Ika Ika, the anti-gravity mask. Easily the hardest to get the hang of, but once you figure out you can flip gravity twice after you jump into the air, you can get away with some hysterically satisfying tricks using the momentum of Crash's weight and gravity hang time to your advantage. One of the best bits for me was at the tail end of the game in Cortex's castle though, when you have to go through one of the hardest damn segments in the entire game while the masks keep switching between each other trying to help you out. Once you remember what's coming up and remember how to use each mask every time a new one gets activated, this feels so good to get right. And above all, it feels totally natural, mostly due to the fact that you only need to hit one button to activate the mask powers in the first place. Like I said earlier, the flow in this game is second to none.
One of the best things about Crash 4 to me is how it takes elements, ideas, and mechanics from all the other Crash games and blends them together seamlessly to give you an almost compilation best of everything we love about Crash games.
You've got the overworld map with level by level progression, chase sequences, and tricky platforming from Crash 1, secret items awarded to you for not dying, jetboard riding in swamps, and animal riding from Crash 2, the time trial relics, excellent boss design, and super spin gliding on occasion from Crash 3, the 4 new masks introduced, longer levels, and ball rolling from Wrath of Cortex, the multiple playable characters, already unlocked double jump, grappling hook mechanic, separate hidden gems in each level, and brief bad guy team up from Twinsanity, the multiple unlockable costumes from Tag Team Racing, the choice to switch between Crash or Coco whenever you want like in the Insane trilogy. Sure, I admit that I really miss the Crash 2 and 3 approach of having surprise level themes thrown together into each world and giving you the choice on which to go for in any order you want, but I don't care that much because I would do the levels in order anyway, and I'm willing to look at that style of progression as a callback both to Crash 1, where you do multiple levels one after the other in a similar theme, and to Twinsanity, where you do multiple stages in one specific location before moving on to the next one. And all of this isn't even going into the amounts of moments from regular stages where box placements copy other levels from the original trilogy, or the amount of different classic Crash boss attacks that were given new life or tweaked entirely for the better. The engine fight for a first boss is incredible, and basically just a slightly more complex entropy from Crash 3. Avoid lasers, and then run up to attack him while getting your head around some platforming under a time limit. Brio is basically a more aggressive and more interesting version of his own fight from Crash 1, but with a little bit of Tiny Tiger from Crash 3 as he follows you around trying to crush you, then ending things off with the spinning enemy off of the edge idea from Cortex's final fight in Crash 3. Cortex's first battle reminded me a lot of Tiny from Crash 3 as well, for how many things are flying towards you across the entire length of the screen, and he gave me Crash 2 engine vibes from all the falling missiles, and even reminded me of the shrinking platform idea from the Bearinator in Crash Bash. Entropy's fight reminded me a lot of Mega Mix from the Huge Adventure on Game Boy Advance, since it's more of a fast-paced running platforming challenge than a boss, and the final Cortex battle is a mix of tons of different shit. Tiny from Crash 2 with all the platforms falling, Koala Kong from Crash 1 with you needing to fire projectiles back at him, Crunch's final battle in Wrath of Cortex for how all of the new masks are used against you at once, and Engine from Crash 2 with those lasers that dart across the screen and you have to jump or duck under. The best thing though is that if you're a Crash fan, you'll get a kick out of all of this, but if you aren't a Crash fan, it's irrelevant because all the levels and bosses by themselves are so tightly designed that it stands out and excels purely on its own merits. The noticeable gameplay callbacks at that point just become a bonus. Did you guys know that these 4 Crash Bandicoot games are not the only ones on the Game Boy Advance? Yeah, totally true. There's technically another one that's hidden on the cartridges for Crash Purple and Crash Nitro Kart, and all you got to do to access them is put the games in like normal, start them up, but hold the left and right triggers while the game is loading up. It's a secret. And after all of that fuss, you're rewarded with Crash Party. What the hell is this game like? It's horrible. We are at the final Crash GBA game, known only as Crash Bandicoot Blast. The only way you can play this one is by owning a GameCube copy of the Wrath of Cortex. Once you get the game in your GameCube, you start it up like normal, and then directly plug in your Game Boy Advance into the 4th controller port. After clicking on the minigame in the main menu and following the instructions, this downloads the game temporarily onto your Game Boy Advance, I guess? I'm not sure how this whole thing works. But more importantly, after going out of your way to own a Game Boy Advance, own a GameCube, own a copy of Wrath of Cortex, and own a connection cable, what do you get? You get a game where you control Crash in a silent nightmare realm using bazookas. You play for about 1 minute, and then you get an advert for Crash Bandicoot The Huge Adventure, which was not called The Huge Adventure in this country, so sorry to all the UK kids out there that were going mad looking for a game that didn't exist. I mean, what can you say? You point, you shoot, you point, you shoot, you point, you shoot. What are they gaining crawling around the area where the bad guys are? Why are they popping their heads up when they know I'm shooting? Can't they hear me shooting? Or maybe they just want to die for a quick and easy way out of this mess, because for all intents and purposes, this game is as much fun as Gangrene. And to give Gangrene credit, at least it came out a long time ago and is still going strong today. The same can't be said for the PSP. This is the portable system I think I've spent the most time on in my life. So many great games. Strangely enough though, not a single one of those hours went towards any Crash Bandicoot game. Yeah, weird, right? I got the PSP for my 12th birthday, I was the biggest Crash fan child you could ever meet, yet I never bought or asked for any of the Crash games that came out on the PSP. But that changes today with Crash Tag Team Racing. We're not looking at the PS1 classics that you could have downloaded from the PS Store directly onto your PSP, nah, we're talking about the ones that they actually sold on the shelves. And this is a direct port of the worst Crash racing game. Okay then, here we go. My name is... Doomps. And when I say that this is a direct port of the PS2 game, I really mean it, because it is virtually identical. The same overworld, the same race courses, the same mechanics, even down to the same cutscenes featuring this mechanical talking pear with a German accent. Obviously, this is a portable system trying to run a pretty intensive PS2 game, so it isn't absolutely perfect. Some corners had to be cut, and it's the most visible with the graphics. I mean, when you try clashing into another car, you often get stuck in the floor, the exhaust pipes look like bumholes, and if you look up to the sky, you'll notice it looks more like a giant blue wig, but everything else is here and accounted for. In fact, dare I say it's my preferred version of the game? Well,
aside from when you're running around the park.
And sure, it sucks a bit how you have to stand still every time you want to move the camera since there's only one analog stick, and they just couldn't help themselves and had to bring back Willy Wumper cheeks. But when you remember this is a portable version of a PS2 game that's more or less exactly the same, it's a no-brainer for me.
There's just one problem. I don't like tag team racing. Which means I don't like this. So even though this is my preferred version, despite the frame rate, it's still the same bad game. You can't polish a turd.
Is it my fault in the Space Bash Gold Relic Challenge that this nitro crate appeared underneath my feet and caused me to lose? Is it my fault in the Splash Dash Gold Relic Challenge I nearly won twice in a row on my first try, but then on the second attempt I randomly got shoved off the center 2 times in a row on the second to last lap, causing me to lose? Or when after 9 attempts and 12 minutes of trying, I was about to win for the second time in a row, but on the very final lap I got randomly pushed off the center and then immediately bumped off from another racer once I recovered? Is it my fault on Keg Kaboom's Gold Relic when I'm getting no barrels or bitches for that matter, and as soon as I lose the round, the highest point scoring gold barrel just appears right in front of my feet when the game's already over? Is it my fault when in the Drain Bash Gold Relic all the power-up crates closest to me not only gave me a power-up when there's a 1 in 4 chance to even get a power-up, but it just so happened that all of these were the most powerful in the game and ended all of the fights within seconds, causing me to win? Is it my fault in the Jungle Fox gem when you have to win within 30 seconds but you're stuck in a slow-moving tank firing slow-moving projectiles that can only be fired once at a time, and then after 6 failed attempts, I eventually win because the other players all blew themselves up? Is it my fault in El Pogo Loco's Crystal when Ripperoo's instant fail nitro crates appear right next to me and I'm locked into a movement too slow to move away? Is it my fault in Metal Fox's Crystal when you have to avoid all of the one-hit kill mines dropping from the sky and then I get wedged in between the corners by Crash, completely unable to move as one drops right on my damn head? Is it my fault in Ring Ding's gem when I pop a power-up balloon to change all my balloons to my color and then somehow also break a power-up crate that isn't anywhere near me, giving me a vacuum cleaner to suck up all of my own balloons to pop, and the AI then shits itself and can't kick me to cancel any of it, even though 99% of all the other times I can't keep a vacuum power up for more than a second without being kicked, and then after a few seconds of ITVs dancing on ice I end up winning, but then the gem animation and sound effect happens before the announcement telling me I even won the match first, causing the game to crash? The answer is yes, it is my fault. Because I'm playing Crash Bash. Where points appear, where balls spawn, where power-ups appear, where hazards attack, aside from only a handful of examples like the totem pole attacking you on Jungle Fox in the same location at the same amount of time remaining in the match, there's no pattern to any of the randomized elements and none of it can be predicted or worked around to your advantage. You've just got to play at your absolute peak possible best and get lucky.
He doesn't seem to be dropping any nitro.
And not just from the supreme AI and randomized munt, but also from the instability of the actual software. That game freeze I showed you from Ring Ding, sure, for me, that's the only time that Crash Bash froze and broke from a Crash Bash crash, but that doesn't mean it's perfectly polished like a lovely vase. You heard me, the other players hate you and the environment hates you too. The balls in the Pong games can sometimes clip through the goalposts, totally unreachable to you and count as a goal. The tank games can sometimes let other players live despite them having 0 health remaining. The mallet mash hammer sometimes just doesn't hit the mushrooms when you're right in front of the damn things. One of my attempts of Keg Kaboom ended in a tie when I actually had more points than the other players, and I came across plenty more in my streams as well. This is not the face of mercy. This is the last face you see before it cuts your life support and teabags you. If it wasn't bad enough going through all of this for the sake of a new thing to collect, even the manual doesn't cut you a break. I failed. Don't worry, everyone else will be laughing at you, but you can still have another go. If you can't face the chance of a humiliating defeat again, pick the return to warp room option and hang your head in shame. You know what, there are not enough games nowadays that tell you how worthless you are. First of all, this here is a giant Crash plush from 2001, and I'm pretty sure it came from Crane Games or Theme Park Fairground attractions as a prize, I don't know honestly. And secondly, these are vintage fridge magnets from 2001 still sealed, and even though I would love to keep it that way, I'm sorry, these are dress-up pieces. I'm opening this bitch and slutting Crash out as much as I can. These were only available in the US back in the day, and that sucks because kid me would have sat on the kitchen floor playing with these for hours. Yeah, kids today have their smartphones and their Fortnite. I had magnets. Look everyone, I did it. The ultimate life form. You know what else I had as a kid? Plastic toys that came for free in cereal boxes. Is that still a thing today? If it isn't, you kids are missing out. The toy was the tastiest part of the box. Once again, from 2001, which at this point might as well be the Crash Bandicoot merchandise renaissance, Nestle cereals came with either a Spyro the Dragon toy, a Tomb Raider toy, or a Crash Bandicoot toy. There were 6 in total, 2 for each franchise, and I have both of the Crash ones right here. They're pretty cute, and I remember having my fun with them as a kid. This one here is a weighted magic balancing Crash thing with a little dent in his chin so you could stick him on a pencil and... Oh, and then there's this one, where Crash looks exactly like a lamp at your nan's house, and all you do is press your fingers down here, and then do what Crash does best, spin. You know what? These children's cereal toys that came for free are not very impressive. Well, so far we've seen a nice variety of stuff, haven't we? Some practical, some vintage, some horrible, but you know what we haven't done yet? Food. And where I wish I could tell you that Wumpa Fruit was real, I suppose this is the next best thing. Your eyes don't deceive you. This is Crash Bandicoot G Fuel. What does the G stand for? Goose. Okay, this is an actual live first proper taste test. Oh. Okay, I was gonna say it had a really nice, soft, floaty, juicy, refreshing taste. The aftertaste has just kicked in. And now it's really bitter. And it's now, oh god, that is traveling right back up. Okay, I don't know if that's because my stomach is disagreeing with it or something, but the aftertaste is the worst bit. It all of a sudden goes from really tropical fruity and kind of mango-y, kind of pineapple-y, and then it just completely nosedives after you get that nice taste out. Like, once it goes down your system, it just becomes gamer grease. And sadly, the only other vaguely food-related thing I was able to find were these. Adorable little cake toppers from France, made entirely from China. Oh, hey, Coco. Why do you look like Prince? These are especially cute and extremely delicate. I love them to pieces, and they were surprisingly valuable for how small they are, but you can't eat them. Well, you can, but you might block the bit that makes you breathe. Crash XS, or Crash the Huge Adventure in the USA, is a game I hold very fond memories of from when I was a kid, playing it for hours constantly whenever I was on a long car journey or keeping to myself in the living room while my parents watched TV. So it only seems appropriate to ruin those happy memories with this being on equal footing with Crash 4 and Crash Nitro Car as the hardest damn game to get the platinum relics on. I mean, my lord! Luckily, most of my gripes with the 5 hardest stages are applicable across the board. When trying to rush through these levels, the amount of screen that you can see whenever you're required to go higher or lower into a level makes landing on platforms downright guesswork. And despite being mostly the same kind of platforming in terms of handling from the PS1 side scrolling, the sliding and slide jumps are not the most responsive in this game, which will cause you the most deaths out of any other Crash game when timing any and all jumps. But that's just how I felt about the whole thing. So what were the worst individual levels? Ace of Space. As a general rule, the space levels in this game are the trickiest, for the guesswork on safe platforms to land on, the lack of sound cues when trying to time enemy attacks, and briefly invulnerable hazards, not to mention some incredibly precise jumps that you have to nail as quick as possible, and with those lovely delayed inputs when it comes to slide jumping. There's nothing particularly stand out about this level compared to the others in the game. It's just a great conglomeration of all the issues the base game has, that are now only a major problem because you're crash dashing through it. However, this doesn't apply to No Fly Zone. And the funny thing about No Fly Zone is that rushing it is basically impossible since it's an auto-scroller away from the screen. You can only go as fast as the level lets you, so that must make it easy, right? Just hit all of the easy boxes, make sure your health doesn't drop, and the platinum is yours. Well, no! Because this stage is split up by 3 mini-bosses, and in order to get the platinum, you need to make sure that every single shot you take lands on the weak point of these blimps. If more than maybe 2 or 3 shots don't land in the entire stage in total, you've lost. And trying to keep that accurate with the GBA D-pad while missiles get in your way, while the blimp does what it shouldn't be able to do and moves quickly, all of this will really end up getting on your tats. It's very hard to take down these 3 in a row without missing a single hit. But you know, it's possible. So Git Guard's No Job is the grossest name for a level I've ever heard, and an absolute nightmare to get the platinum relic on for more reasons than the universal ones when it comes to how Crash XS handles. Because now you have to deal with a lot of extremely fast ice physics colliding sliding with the unresponsive slide jumping, and even more displeasingly, a giant, endless, downright cruel section of you needing to run towards the camera on the back of a polar bear while holding the boost button. While the game throws a nuclear assault of insta-kill obstacles and enemies your way that you will not see until it's already too late. The GBA just can't keep up with you, and it's absolutely fine when running at a normal pace, but while boosting, it's practically unplayable. Where am I going? Where will the next time crates be? What's gonna kill me in the next millisecond? I reckon by the time it takes you just to get by this one section of the level, you could have had a snow job of your own. The final countdown. It's the final level of the game, so it's meant to be the hardest. It's in space, and you all know why that's an issue from Ace of Space. That's all I really need to say. Enemies everywhere, you can't see where you're landing, platforms that drop you, nitro crates everywhere, it's a really long level. I've got nothing more to add. It's just unpleasant to get the platinum on. But not as unpleasant for me as the second grossest name for a level I've ever heard right after Snow Job, Drip Drip Drip, which will either make you think of something very naughty or a bad tribute act to Wet Wet Wet. Getting a platinum in this stage, this dirty dishwater of a stage, was easily one of the least enjoyable things I've ever done in a Crash game, and why it was so unenjoyable was because as a whole, it's not that difficult, so I felt like a moron every time I restarted. But the amount of restarts, my god, you'd never believe the amount of my restarts, all because of one thing. One seemingly easy and insignificant thing that ended up giving me recurring nightmares for days after getting the relic. The frogs. These frogs are the worst enemy in any Crash game, hands down, all of them, because even if you know they're coming, even if you memorize every location of them, they will kill you if their stomachs so much as look at you a little bit funny. It doesn't even matter if you're spinning while they land on you, their stomachs are just that hench that Crash can barely stand to touch them, and when rushing from left to right on a screen crunch GBA game, you'll never see them leaping from off camera until you've already been murdered by them. Sometimes jumping in advance doesn't even help because you could jump straight into their stomachs and die that way in mid-air. Plus, the stage spams them repeatedly throughout the whole runtime. And they're just frogs! They're frogs in a flat and boring sewer stage! It shouldn't be this hard, and it does nothing but make me feel stupid for dying on it so many times!
So maybe it's about time I play another game that will surely calm me down. And it's on the GBA.
Ugh, this video is too long, man. Crash Entranced is the sequel to Crash XS, also on the Game Boy Advance, and surprise surprise, comes bundled with exactly the same issues as the previous game when it comes to Platinum Relics. But it also has two new power-ups that work great in the standard game, but when put into the time trials cause nothing but problems. Get a load of this. If you hold L and press R, you do a super slide, an uncontrollably fast slide that will make you slide off more ledges than anything else. If you hold L and press jump while standing still, you do a super jump. A stupidly high jump for sure, but one that goes so high that you can't see where you're gonna go, can't see where you're gonna land, doesn't protect you from whatever's above you, and gives you practically no distance. What button do you think you have to hold to do the crash dash? L. So if you're dashing and stopping your tracks for a split second before committing to a jump, if you're still holding the dash button ready to start running again, you'll instead rocket into the air and escape the atmosphere. Or on the other hand, if you need to slide during the dash, you won't do the normal slide. You'll instead do the super slide because you're already holding the dash button to run fast. It's confusing, it's disorientating, and some part of me tells me that the devs realized these flaws because getting the platinums here as a whole wasn't actually that bad at all. The time limits were really generous, so I think they must have felt a bit guilty. Saying that, there were still some bastard levels though, so let's dive into them. Rocks can roll. Oh my, they certainly can. Rocks can roll indeed. Right off the edge of the level. I'm gonna defend these levels for a second as well. Yes, I like them. Not as much as the Wrath of Cortex ones, but for isometric ball rolling on a GBA, this felt really satisfying to get right. You can even hold A to use it as a brake to get more control back. This mechanic in itself makes these stages 10 times more playable, and helps out a lot with the time trial since they stop you wonderfully from flying off of the edge if you think you are rolling too fast. What I have a problem with when trying to rush these stages is, well, everything else. Aiming at time crates moving at 1,000,000 miles an hour is a pain, rolling barrels hidden behind the isometric view of a half pipe are a pain, insta-kill electric gates that don't have a clear pattern on when they turn on or off are a pain, slightly wonky hit detection is a pain, the occasional slowdown moment is a pain. Whatever way you look at it, this level is a pain. Runaway Rug is an appropriate name for this level because oopsie, the rug ran away from your feet, you've lost. It's got all the problems with the controls I've already mentioned from the first GBA game, but now with those lovely power-ups activating when you really don't want them to. Next, Hop in Coffins. We have all the same problems with the first GBA game, but now with those those lovely power-ups activating when you really don't want them to. And now, with added timed switch doors that cancel out your jump off of them if you don't press them properly, and ice physics. Ice physics with an accidental super slide. Surely that's just asking for a nasty bit of criticism. Oh look, another Egyptian level. Slip and sliding sphincter. I mean, this just sums up everything without me needing to explain anything else, right? The platinum relic for the first level of the game, Island Intro, I'm convinced was put there for a joke. Yes, the first level really is that difficult. Wanna know why? To platinum the first level of Crash 2 Entranced, you need to be so perfect that you're literally shaving off microseconds with each attempt you try. The level isn't long, the level isn't hard, but getting that platinum took me more retries than any other level in the entire game, and it makes me feel like Coco's angry monobrow.
And finally, it is Crash Nitro Kart on the GBA, which is not a port from the PS2 version because the GBA could not handle that, so instead it's completely different tracks and completely different controls than the PS2 version, which means that technically I have to get all of the relics on this version of the game as well.
Okay, just to be serious for a second, I actually can't pick any one of these stages as the hardest because, to be completely honest, they're all basically the same in terms of challenge, and that challenge isn't very high to begin with. As great as this game is, the tracks are of course limited due to the GBA, so aside from different cosmetics and a few left to right turns that are different, all the races here feel practically the same, especially when it comes to relic races, because the boxes can't be placed anywhere that created to begin with, and shortcuts aren't really a thing in this game. All of this considered means that Nitro Kart GBA was the easiest game to platinum for me by a long way. Like, aside from extremely minor differences, they're all basically the same track, and whenever something stands out, it's usually extremely mundane. Nothing more to say. This one was a piece of cake to complete on platinum, and if you haven't tried this game out even regularly, I recommend it. It's really good. Just don't pick a heavy speed character for the relic races because they're a bit lumpy-dumpy and love to miss all of the boxes.
202 platinum relics in the bag. My Crash love quota for this year is completely full. I'm done. No more. Bye, everybody. I'm gonna go and get some fresh air after that. Oh, I can't. The world is still bricks, so I guess I'll just fall asleep right here. Thank you for watching the dumbest and most painful video I ever made, and in case you were wondering about my top 5 overall hardest relics to get, I'll give you a quick list. Jungle Boogie, Leave Me Alone, Don't Care, Shut Up I'm Tired, and I'm never gonna do anything like this ever again.